If you will bow with me, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather today on behalf of the residents of the city of Florence. Thank you for bringing all of these concerned citizens and others here tonight to discuss issues that are pertinent and relevant to them. Be with us throughout this meeting and allow our voices and our words to be gentle and kind toward each other. In your precious and holy name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bob, please go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember Simmons.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin. Absent. Councilmember Eubanks.
Present.
Councilmember Edwards. Here. Councilmember Oliver.
Here.
Council President Jordan.
Here.
Mr. President, we have 5 council members in attendance and therefore a quorum is present.
Agenda, we added an item 12B, and I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Eubanks, second by Mr. Oliver, all in favor.
5-0, motion carries.
Have a motion, a message from the mayor.
Excuse me. I have several items on the agenda tonight. The first is I'm going to give a resolution to the city clerk. I am reappointing Coy Johnson to the Florence Housing Authority Board. Second thing I want to mention is recent loss of Leon Bates, who was our first, as I understand it, our first urban forestry, is that correct? Did some amazing work in our community, and his legacy continues in many, many ways, and it's my understanding they will have a service of memorial at a later time. So I ask that you keep the Bates family in your thoughts and prayers. Next, I want to mention the River Heritage Trail grand opening Sunday. Playing just right. The rain stayed away until we were finished. Had a great crowd there. Lots of bike riders and runners and walkers of all ages, and I couldn't be more pleased with that amazing event that also shares an abundant amount of history for our community, and I'm very proud of everyone that worked so diligently to make that a success that will carry on for our future. We had an amazing grand opening Sunday afternoon at the River Heritage Trail. If you didn't get a chance to join us, please make plans to experience the nature, the natural beauty of Florence along the riverbank between the trailhead located just beyond the River Heritage Pavilion at the Marriott to the Patton Island Overlook. This is a 1.mile stretch, provides residents and visitors with a scenic pathway to explore and enjoy the area's natural wonders. Next, I'd like to call Kay Hillis and her family, the widow of Preston Hillis, to join me. I'm going to read a proclamation. Preston Hillis was an amazing individual and worked tirelessly to bring Memorial Grove to fruition, and it is an amazing place that has grown with honor and dignity and recognizes numerous individuals. I know the police and fire in particular have been there, but most especially was the flag, and I think he took lots of honor and having there right at the curve of Florence Boulevard as it goes out towards Highway 72. It flies every day. It's a huge flag, and we're very proud of that, and he diligently worked on that. And the request was made that it be flown at half-staff. I didn't realize at the time that the governor's office actually has to do that, make that move, and I know one of the granddaughters works in the governor's office, but we actually called down in my office, and I didn't realize that had happened. But without fail, the governor signed a letter that I'm going to give to Ms. Hillis, and then I'd like to read this proclamation. In recognition and tribute to Preston Earl Hillis, whereas the city of Florence, Alabama would like to recognize and pay tribute to one of its most distinguished citizens, Preston Earl Hillis, who died April 16, 2024 at the age of 78. His death has brought great sorrow to our city, and whereas Mr. Hillis leaves behind his beloved wife Kay Bowling Hillis, his sons Patrick and wife Mary of Decatur, and Robbie and wife Missy of Florence, his grandchildren Mary Kate, Mac, Ben, and Lydia, his sister Frances Moore, husband Mike, his brother Michael Hillis, his nephews Jeff Bowling, Dennis Moore, Jason Moore, Jamie Hillis, his nieces Melissa Lyles and Brianna Meharry, and a host of loving family and friends. And whereas he was a faithful member of Woodmont Baptist Church for over 50 years, Mr. Hillis also served as a member of the Woodmont Baptist Building Committee and security team, and went on several mission trips to build or remodel churches. And whereas Mr. Hillis served in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, when he returned home, he worked for Reynolds Metals before working with TVA at Concord Steam Plant and Browns Ferry Nuclear Plant for 35 years as a unit operator. He was an electrician by trade and a member of the IBEW Local 558. And whereas he was a youth and high school sports official for over 40 years and served in many roles within the Tennessee Valley Football Officials Association, he was also a member of the show's National Championship Committee, serving as the game official host for 20 years. And whereas Mr. Hillis had a vast repertoire of volunteer work in the community and with civic organizations, Safe Place, the U.S. Census Bureau, the Florence Masonic Lodge number 14, Shows Master Gardeners, Alabama Baptist Association Disaster Relief Team, and the Florence Tree Commission all benefited from his volunteer work and leadership. Alongside those on the Tree Commission, Mr. Hillis helped develop the Memorial Grove in Florence, where he took on the responsibility of caring for the American flag. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Andrew Betterton, Mayor of the City of Florence, Alabama, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby remember and pay tribute to Preston Earl Hillis, and further express to his family our deepest and most sincere sympathy.
I just wanted to say that he loved the flag. He loved lowering it. He'd go up in the dawn of morning and go back in the afternoon to do it. He helped build it. He put the letters on the Memorial Grove bricks. He'd come home every day with filthy clothes from digging and storming and everything, and he loved it. And they have done a video of him available for students in the city, and I'm very proud of that. We have a lot of pictures of him doing that, and it's been great to see him again. That flag brings a lot of excitement to my family, and we've had a lot of friends that have really, really contributed for extra flags for him. And he just loved doing it. I mean, we have flags all over our house, and he loved doing it. And the Memorial Grove was his favorite place, and we will be doing a memorial up there for him in his honor. So, but thank y'all for doing this. We're very excited. Our granddaughter got to help do this, and we were excited when we got to go up there the day of his funeral and lower the flag. So thank y'all for doing this. Appreciate it.
Well, obviously, as you drive by, you'll always remember his dedication to that, and we're certainly grateful for what he's brought to our community. Now I'd like to ask if Angie Hendon and Lisa McCrory could come forward. I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas communication disorders are among the most common conditions in children and adults, affecting tens of millions of people in the United States alone. And whereas left untreated, these disorders can negatively impact a person's academic, social, and career success, as well as their overall quality of life. And whereas with early intervention and treatment, many communications disorders can be reversed or even prevented. And whereas treatment of any age or any stage can make a positive impact. And whereas let us all recognize the needs of those among us who have hearing, speech, language, and swallowing disorders, and do all that we can to ensure that they have access to the services and audiologists and speech-language pathologists who can help them communicate effectively and swallow safely. Now therefore, I, Andrew Betterton, Mayor of the City of Florence, Alabama, do hereby declare the month of May 2024 as National Speech Language Hearing Month in Florence, Alabama. I'm pleased to join with the citizens of Florence to salute the numerous audiologists, hearing specialists, and speech language pathologists in our community who dedicate themselves every day to improve the lives of their clients, patients, and students.
Thank you. I don't want to bore anybody. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
I'm sorry for my coffee. I'd like to ask Brad Holmes if he would come up. We'd hope to have a couple more with us tonight, but I think there's some issues going on that need to be addressed outside of here. So I'm going to ask Brad to stand here as we proclaim Emergency Medical Services Week. Proclamation. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore, I, Andrew Betterton, Mayor of the City of Florence, Alabama, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week. The 50th anniversary of EMS Week theme is EMS Week, honoring our past, forging our future. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to accept this on behalf of our EMTs and EMS employees throughout the City of Florence and Lauderdale County. As the Mayor referenced, there was the full intention of having those employees with us tonight. But as anyone who has been around emergency medical services or first response knows, plans can change quickly, and sadly, Those individuals that were planning to be with us tonight are currently working a very sad and tragic situation that has resulted in the loss of life. And so tonight, our thoughts and prayers go to the families of those affected by this tragedy, but it's also, I think, serves as a reminder to us of the value and the importance that we should be placing on those EMTs, our firefighters, our law enforcement, and anyone who is in a situation of first response. As I said, those individuals had planned on being here with us tonight, and at a moment's notice, things changed. So it is an honor to accept this on their behalf, and I would continue to encourage our community to support those that are in lines of first response, and particularly during this week, our EMS employees and our EMTs. Thank you.
Any department heads have anything to bring forth? Not any standing committees. We do have one public hearing.
Referring to item 9A on your agenda is the public hearing for an ordinance to approve the rezoning of 1.98 acres located at 3318 Florence Boulevard from R1 Single Family Residential District to B1H Neighborhood Business High Impact District. And this comes at the request of Mr. Barry Wade. This particular case was heard by the Planning Commission in September. It has gone through the proper procedure at the Planning Commission level, including the first public hearing. At that public hearing, there were no comments from the floor, and it was unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission as it is congruent with the city's comprehensive plan. Just to give a little more context to the location, it is on Highway 72, just south of Newburn's Restaurant, or the intersection of Indian Springs Drive, I guess, just south of that location. The council did see annexation of this property at their April 4th meeting, and this resolution, or this ordinance, of course, is to rezone the property. Is there any questions from the council that I could entertain before we open the floor? Okay. Mr. President, if you'd like to open the floor for comments.
And open the public hearing. We'll start. Anybody for or against in this section? Anyone in this section? Anyone in section over here for or against? If not, we'll go ahead and close it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to go ahead and approve the consent. I'm sorry, yeah. We were discussing that earlier. I have anyone here that's from the floor pertaining to items on the consent and regular agenda. This section, again, this section.
Thank you, City Council. Let me raise the mic up. That's better. So my name is Rivers Arinsky. I live here in downtown Florence, and there's two items that I'd like to talk about tonight. So, first of all, I don't think everything was handled the way it should have been tonight, and this is why I say that. So, back in the work session, when y'all were discussing the pickleball courts, one member of a local pickleball team, from the way I understand it, just a member of the general public, was invited up here to come speak. Now, this is a really high turnout for a city council meeting, and I love to see that. I wish that all city council meetings this many people would come to. But I say that to point out that I don't see how it's fair that like one member of the general public can speak in the work session if no one else can, because I know there are multiple people here tonight that want to speak. I also don't think that it's right to put a $9 million item on the consent agenda instead of on the regular agenda, regardless of how popular or unpopular the item is. So regarding the pickleball courts, this is where I'm at. I was reading over the bids that were posted online, which they were a little bit hard to find, but I do commend y'all for posting all 4 bids online. And I noticed that in the Roberts Builders bid from Mississippi, they were only estimating $900,000 for parking. The bid that is being considered, or I guess just approval with the consent agenda, estimated $2.7 million for parking. And I'm trying to figure out why there's that discrepancy between the $2.7 million in this bid and the $900,000 in the other bid, and if it might be possible to do parking with one company and the rest of the work with another. Now, my take on the pickleball courts is I think that, to Michelle Eubanks' point in the work session, that we need to see what the demand is. Back in January of 2023, I was here in a group of 11 people that came here to advocate for an improved skate park for our city. I'm not sure how many will speak on pickleball tonight, but I know that there were a group of 11 that I was with back in January of 2023 that came for an improved skate park. And if there are less than 11 that are here tonight regarding pickleball, perhaps that's not where the priority should be. My take, though, is I think we should do 12 tennis courts and 12 pickleball courts, is my take. And I say that to say because I think 12 of each is enough to be able to gauge the demand, and Bill Jordan pointed out that we need 12 for a tournament. So that's my take. I don't think we should do 20 immediately. The sportsplex that we've had on Dunwalliford Road for a while, you started with 8 softball fields, and now there are 12 because we started getting tournaments, and the demand was there. And so absolutely, you can add more in the future if there's demand, but the way I see it, we should scale this back a little bit, and we can always add more to Veterans Park as there's the demand. Now, one other thing I'd like to mention regarding the marker. So my concern is if we just approve a general marker regarding racism, I think that any group could request a marker on various topics throughout the city. I think that markers should be limited to things like important historical figures. And tonight, if we had a marker on the agenda that was, say, for the life of Dred Scott, or for the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or Rosa Parks, I would be here in support of that because all 3 of those figures were very influential in Alabama African American history. And I think that'd be great if we had a marker on any of the 3, or frankly, all 3 of them. But I'm concerned that just by allowing a general marker, that even like a white supremacist group could say, well, hey, there's some of us. We'd like a marker. And I do not want a white supremacist group to request a marker.
You have 1 minute remaining.
So that's where I'm at on the marker. The last thing I want to say to the members of Project Say Something that are here, I was one of 4 people that took the time to draw a new map for Alabama's congressional districts when the Supreme Court overturned it because there was not enough African American representation. I cared that y'all would have a voice, and I drew a new map. I hope that several of you will provide input tonight, and I support y'all having a voice, and I hope that we can continue this discussion in a friendly manner. And with that, I yield my time. Thank y'all so much.
Anyone else in this section?
I just want to say hey to River. I remember him in Kilby. Hey, River. I just want to challenge some of his concerns. First of all, this marker is not erected for a historical figure, no, but it is erected in response to a Confederate monument in a dedication speech. That is history. That was erected in 1903, and that addresses specifically the overt racism that was named in that dedication speech. So though it's not a actual person, it does address a historical issue. That monument was erected for the purpose of intimidating Black citizens. We dug up the dedication speech in 1903. We have the documentation. Everyone on this council has read it. So it's not just a random marker that some random black people just asked for. It actually speaks directly to a historical object that's in the middle of our city. So I just wanted to clear that up, and I don't think it would be equitable if every single group got to, it's particularly white supremacists, because if you think about it that way, they already have a statue. So why would they need to put a marker up in response to that? So that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is David Carson. I live in Florence, Alabama. Before I get into the main thing, I just want to mention that items on the consent agenda, L and S, to reflect what River was saying, an $8 million item and a $9 million item should not be on the consent agenda. It should be on a regular agenda just by price alone. I think it deserves its, both of those deserve its separate discussion and votes. Now on to the marker. I'm so tired of this, really. How many times do I have to get up here and talk about this? But here I am. I guess I have to do this. First of all, I don't think any agenda item should be added to the agenda at last minute, especially not one this controversial. I think the public should have time to see it on the agenda to be able to show up and respond to it. I've done what I can on my own personal channels to get what the marker is going to say out there and to let people know, but there's only so much I can do. It would, I don't think items should be thrown on the agenda last minute during the work session, especially nothing this controversial. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get into this. I mean, I've been up here so much talking about this stuff. You know where I stand on this. I'll mention a few things. Nowhere on that statute is that speech mentioned. Nowhere on that statute is that speech mentioned that the marker is supposed to be addressing. That 100-year-old speech that marker is addressing. It's a very classy statute honoring our Confederate dead. And yes, if one group, I'm not saying I'm a white supremacist group, but I don't hate white people, say another group decides to respond with that marker, with their own marker, given their own context. That will happen if that marker comes up. We can put 15 up there. We can play this game all day long. And as long as I'm referencing history, it's a historical marker. I'm not sure that's how those historical markers work. So they might bring up that on the statute it says a dedication with appropriate ceremony. What that is referencing is the whole reason for that statute is because a lot of Confederate soldiers did not receive proper burials. They were buried in mass graves. That's why they put that up there. They were buried in mass graves without proper ceremony. As far as the speech that was given, I think it was of its time. I think a lot of people talk crap about a lot of other people. I think that guy was part of a group, probably part of a group, a race-based group like Project Say Something, that used the opportunity for their own political and propaganda aims. That's why that person was there, and that's why that person gave that speech. And this marker that is being proposed is not historical context. It's just straight up propaganda. It's political propaganda. That's what it is. Which is fine, but you can put that in the archives or in the newspaper or on social media or talk about it here, but not on a marker that's honoring the dead, that people died defending this area from an invading army. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what can I say? You either get it or you don't. I'm just wondering, as far as racism being mentioned in that marker, that is probably one of the most subjective words out there, especially today. Can any of y'all define what that is? Does the definition of that pretty much dictated by groups like Project Say Something? I think so. So I'm just wondering, if I played that game and just called you racist, will any of you do jumping jacks if I if I don't call you racist? Will you do jumping jacks if I promise not to call you racist? I promise you, you will not melt. You will not die if people call you racist. It's not that big of a deal. That's all I got. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Billy Ray Simpson, 75 West Alabama Street. Lord, every time I come in here, I say I can't say nothing. Every time I need to say something. But that monument is a racist statue. It's not just historical, but it's in our life now. Those words and what it stands for represents our courthouse. And most of the people in Florence, in the rural area in Lauderdale County. I'm not deceived. And I don't think many of you are deceived either. To understand, this young man talking about the dead soldiers, when our people were raped, hung alive, buried alive. He didn't say nothing about that. But he want a place where they can be buried. We just want to live. But it's time for us to be woke up and out of denial that this is a racist place. It is. It is a racist place. And these races need to be born again. They need to be saved. They need a heart. Not just for themselves, but for us. Love us like you love yourself. The devil is a lie. And I call it to his face. He's a liar. And the truth ain't in him. You can say you're not a racist. Yes, you are. Thank you.
Anyone else in this section? Not. Would you go with regular agenda?
All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Florence City Council for reading and study, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request.
I hear a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, second by Mr. Edwards, all in favor of the motion.
5-0, motion carries. Under the regular agenda, item A is an ordinance to approve the rezoning of 1.983 acres located at 3318 Florence Boulevard from R1 Single Family Residential District to B1H Neighborhood Business High Impact District as requested by Barry N. Wade, sponsored by Melissa Bailey.
Do I hear a motion for immediate consideration?
So moved.
Motion made consideration, Ms. Eubanks, second by Ms. Simmons, all in favor of the motion.
5-0.
I hear a motion for adoption.
Motion.
Motion for adoption, Mr. Oliver, second by Ms. Simmons, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion.
5-0, motion carries. Item B, which was added earlier, is a resolution that City Council hereby authorizes the placement of a historical marker in the right-of-way on the southwest corner of Court and College Streets in front of the Lauderdale County Courthouse, sponsored by the City Council.
Do I hear a motion for immediate consideration?
Second?
Motion for immediate consideration, Mr. Simmons, second by Ms. Eubanks, all in favor of the motion.
5-0.
Do I hear a motion for adoption?
Second?
Motion for adoption, Ms. Simmons, second by Ms. Eubanks, any discussion?
I have some, Mr.
Sure.
President. First off, I think it's really important that I make it very clear that I have not been a part of the group that was working with those in the community to do this. So what I have done instead is I have followed the email threads, I have reviewed the multiple drafts of the document you have here. I've heard from members of the council who have worked on this, and I have spoken with City Historian Billy Warren. That is very typical for me to do that kind of work to get to this point today. And I sincerely appreciate all of the work that has gone into it, and I understand the value in sharing this important and very pointed message. I understand the value in that. My concern, okay, this is not a however or a but, this is my concern. Putting it at the corner of College and Court Streets does not give Harvey, Mary, Richard, Jim, Walker, Charlotte, Lottie, Ann, Alec, Charles, Rachel, Keisha, Sally, Johnny, and Becky the historical context they deserve. It doesn't do it. We can thumb our nose at the county, and quite frankly, that is exactly what this is as the City of Florence, saying, you know what, we disagree with this. We have to contextualize this for the audience that deserves to know more about these incredible individuals and their lives that were lost and sold, enslaved individuals. So I urge a change in location to give this the historical context it deserves, that these lives deserve. And I welcome the opportunity to consider a different venue that gives the language herein greater context and value outside of what can only be seen at the current location, as I said, as thumbing our nose to the county. And believe me, there are plenty of opportunities for us in the City of Florence to want to do that. But I sincerely believe we can do that in order to make these lives even more valuable than they were in 1859. I am, thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir. I'd like to add to that. I had plenty I was going to say, but I agree 1,000% with what Ms. Eubanks just said. I totally agree with her. So she saved me the time of trying to put it in words that she can do much better than I can with. But I do have concerns, and I think Mr. Zirinsky brought up a couple of those in his words as well, that for instance, I have already been contacted by one group that knew of this possibly going to happen, who insisted that he would be here with his group as soon as it went up, asking for a rebuttal to the rebuttal. And I also visited with our city historian after sitting down with Project Say Something and going through the wording of what was going to be on here, and after hearing his take on it as well, I'm having just a huge problem right now with it going where we're talking about it going. And then there's the issue too of the county commission, and even though it's city right away, I get that, it's still, you know, in front of their property there. I've gone on record, I think, since I've been doing this, at least 2 times, and I think 3, and I'll make it 4 tonight. I encourage a sit down with the county commission and look at relocating the statue. I've always said that. I thought it ought to go down in the cemetery, which would open the door for this marker to go somewhere else as well. I get when someone says they don't feel like they're getting a fair shake because of a statue in front of a courthouse. But I have people who've come to me that look at that statue as no more than a monument to their family members who died in the Civil War. They've never looked at it as a sign of racism. So you got different opinions on different sides there, and we got to look at all of them when you're using, and what's been lost in this is taxpayer money to pay for this marker. This is not being paid for by Project Say Something. They're asking the citizens of Florence to pay for this. So we got to take all that into consideration when making a very difficult decision like this. So tough decision to make, but I can't support it at this time.
Anyone else?
I do. I've heard everybody, and of course, your thoughts are your thoughts, and I respect your thoughts, and as well as you should respect mine. But we've spent many months and weeks on this, and before it got to this point, myself, President Jordan, Councilman Edwards, and Councilman Oliver. There's even times that the mayor has been there. There was one time that the city attorney was there. And even before that, myself, Ms. Eubanks, and Councilman Oliver, we had discussed this. But before it got to this point, and you have your right to feel like you do, but, and Councilman Oliver said, you said we should have sat down with the county. But why didn't we make that happen? Because we're the ones that could have made it happen. And instead of getting to this point, continuously meeting with Project Say Something week after week, and allowing them to think that this was going to happen, I just believe in the transparency. We should have just, if that's how you felt, you should have said it instead of allowing them to think that it was going to happen. Because your thoughts is your thoughts, and you have that right for your freedom. But just been a lot of time wasted and delayed when it didn't have to be. And as far as the history is history. The good, bad, and the ugly. The truth is the truth. Whether we want to hear it, whether we want to acknowledge it, and whether we want to accept it. It is what it is. And so where we should stand today is where I try to stand. Let me speak strictly just for me. Don't let history repeat itself. Move in a forward direction. Move the city in a forward direction. Nobody should want to be stuck. Racism shouldn't even be a part of anybody's thoughts and their plans, even though I know that it is. I feel it myself at times. So we're here, so I do want to go forward and go ahead and vote this one way or the other. Thank you.
Anyone else? First off, let me say that I do think interpretive flag is good. And however, we must, I think, get the wording right, and I think we have some work to do on the front side of the flag. Sure.
In response to Councilman Jordan said we should get the wording right, I thought that we did get the wording right, because after the committee, which is myself, President Jordan, Edwards, and Oliver, and with Project Say Something, everybody looked at it and was okay for it to be presented. So I'm not quite sure where the wording is off with this. Somewhere along the line you changed your mind. I wish you had changed it long before, instead of wasting all these time of all these meetings. It should have been done, the wording should have been changed again, if that's what you want to do, before we come to here today. It just doesn't make sense to me, all this back and forth.
You want to have anything else?
I'll just say, I think it's, as far as being in the city of Florence, and I know racism was prevalent back, in the 1900s when the speech was given. But I don't really see why we as a city need to put a marker up that we denounce racism, because racism, it's illegal to have racism. It's just illegal. It's illegal to have someone, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of religion. I think it's a very divisive thing that we're looking at. And I just, at this point in time, I just can't support it at this time.
Any other discussion?
From anybody? From anybody? Is that from any of us? What's the point? What's the point of being?
Not from the public just yet.
No.
It's still under council. You will have your opportunity to speak.
No, ma'am.
Not now.
Before the vote?
We already
No,
got
ma'am.
that.
Maybe there shouldn't be one tonight. If there's still things up in the air that need to be done.
We can't have the dialogue back and forth right now like that.
We need to go ahead and vote.
I thought they
We
voted.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion? No, I'm sorry, I'll probably go ahead. All in favor of the motion?
To put the statute, to put the marker up.
Aye. Did you get that, Mr.? Did you get that? All in,
Simmons and Miss Eubanks, right?
aye. All those against?
2 votes for, 3 against, motion fails.
So what's it for discussion now? We're relocating it maybe? What's up for discussion?
We'll get to you to that point in just a second here.
It's ridiculous. I mean, this is
Item A,
over
on
and over and over.
General business is an alcohol beverage license application for the operation of a full-service restaurant with on-premises liquor, beer, and wine by Las Fiesta Incorporated, doing business as Senor Tequila Mexican Bar and Grill Restaurant located at 105 North Court Street, Florence, Alabama, sponsored by Robert M. Leidy.
Do I hear a motion for immediate consideration?
So moved. Second?
Motion for immediate consideration, Ms. Eubanks, second. Ms. Simmons, all in favor?
5-0.
Do I hear a motion for adoption?
Motion.
Second?
Motion for adoption, Mr. Oliver, second by Ms. Eubanks, all in favor of the motion?
5-0, motion carries. Item B is a resolution, alcohol beverage license application for the operation of a full-service restaurant with on-premises liquor, beer, and wine by Villagrana Incorporated and doing business as Hugo's Mexican Restaurant located at 4160 Florence Boulevard, sponsored by Robert M. Leidy.
Do I hear a motion for immediate consideration?
Motion.
Second?
Motion for immediate consideration, Mr. Oliver, second by Ms. Eubanks, all in favor of the motion?
5-0.
I hear a motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Motion for adoption, Ms. Simmons, second by Ms. Eubanks, any discussion? Not all in favor of the motion?
5-0, motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. President.
This time we have board appointments. We have several openings, but we got 2 applications. We got we have a nomination here of Don Hillary. I hear a motion we appoint Diddy.
Don Hildy.
To the Historical Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The application for Michael Carr to the Florence Lauderdale Public Library Board. Motion we appoint Michael to this.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, second by Mr. Graham, all in favor of the motion. If not, we'll go ahead and have business from the public. One in this station, one in the center.
Thank you, President Jordan. No Hill has enlarged itself for races. Now, every race is going to hell. You better check yourself. We got all kind of excuses when black folks want to rise up. We got all kind of excuses when black folks want something. But white folks still think they think for black folks. You don't think for me. I think for myself. I think for myself. I don't need you to think for me. And I don't play politics. If that's what you're playing. You're playing politics, you think you're gonna be elected by these other races, just like Donald Trump. He's a racist, but you gonna vote for him. He already admitted he's a racist. All the white folks gonna vote for him. But I'm not, because he's a racist. And if you vote for him, you are too. Thank you.
I debated whether to get up again, but there's a couple more things I wanted to add to the discussion, so I decided to get up again. So, regarding, the wording of the marker, in the past, when there's been, the need for public input, from McFarland Park, we did a meeting at the main room. That was back at the end of 2022, good attendance. We've done a meeting more recently regarding what should be done about the traffic on Pine Street. We did that meeting right here. So why don't we set up in the next few months a public meeting where we can discuss the marker, where all members of the public can come in at a scheduled time and give their opinion. We can invite the county commission to this meeting, if that will help move things forward. And all the council members and the mayor can have a chance to attend that way, and anybody in the public for or against or for any changes can attend the meeting. And that way too, maybe we could invite WZZA, our African American owned AM radio station here. They might want to cover the meeting live, have a reporter here. So that would be my suggestion on that. And another point I want to make, since you voted tonight to renovate, Veterans Park, to do the tennis courts and the pickleball courts, I know in the past, when discussing the statute, there was discussion of moving it to Veterans Park. So if we're already doing work in Veterans Park, perhaps that ideal should be moved back on the table.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say is to Councilman Edwards' point, I don't know what kind of statement like racism is illegal was. Racism exists, period. I want to address racism, but I want to address racism in a way that is fair for the majority of citizens of this city, that people can get behind and will represent everybody fairly. That's all. Thank you so much.
Very good. That's good.
Anyone else in the center?
My name's Kathy Frederick. I'm a resident of Florence. I came in late and I was running late and I left my hearing aids at home. So I couldn't tell what was going on when I came in, but I knew somebody was being done wrong. Really wrong. They've been jerked around for a long time. I'm a veteran. I'm not racist. I grew up here during segregation. I learned how segregation was wrong at Rogers Department Store as a 5-year-old. And when a 5-year-old knows that things are wrong, adults should know when things are wrong.
Savior.
And it's been jerk, 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 one right after another. I'm sick of it. I served with everybody. I even served with people from China that were in our military. They weren't citizens, but they were good people and did the right thing, came the right way, and they could join our military while they were working on the process.
Yeah, where you're on the front lines.
The one boy I worked with, he couldn't work up to petty officer because he was not a citizen, but he was an extremely smart person. Now, if our military can accept people for what they are, citizens should be able to accept people for what they are. I'm just really, really upset about this. And I'm not the only one. You know, most of the people that, when all those protests were going on, they were white. The majority was white. Our black citizens are in the minority here. And somebody needs to stand up for them. It's just a plaque.
No one does.
It's just a plaque. That statue has been there since the, what do you call them, Daughters of the Confederacy came here for the presentation. They thought it was going to the veterans section in the military, in the cemetery. But no, the local mayor changed all that. And I can't say that I know how people feel exactly, but I know I would be intimidated. If there was a statue of Hitler out there, I'd be intimidated every time I would have to go to the courthouse or get my tags renewed.
It's the same thing.
It's about the same thing. Thank you.
So I didn't plan on speaking, but I brought some papers with me, so I guess I will. So we started tonight off talking about memorials and how important they are to people, what we honor. And this area is important. And as a member of the faith community, I'd like to read this, and I guess we're going to go around to different churches and see who agrees with us for advocating for relocating the statue. As a member of First Pres, we're involved with various community services and projects in the area. We're always exploring new ways to support justice and foster peace within our community. To that end, we are convinced that the Confederate statue located on the plaza in front of the courthouse serves as a constant reminder of a racist period in our past. The statue and what it stands for perpetuates an environment of hatred and inequality in our community. And in particular, it's in this location that's there for justice system. It's in front of the courthouse, people. It should be relocated. We don't really need a marker, I don't think. We need to move the damn thing. We, as members of a faith community of Florence, have a responsibility to act when situations like this arise and do not reflect the moral and civic priorities as informed by our faith traditions. So we're going to see different pastors, I guess, meet with them and try to get people to sign on to having it relocated. Maybe meet with council like you suggested. I don't know what the wording is for the plaque, but unless it's right there, unless it says we do not agree with what the speech that was made, then it's probably not sufficient. We need to pay attention to what we say is good and what we honor.
Anyone else?
Well, my name's David. I live in Florence, Alabama. See, you got called a racist. You're fine. You didn't die. You didn't melt. It's all good. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter, especially if they don't. If it's a word that's taken any meaning that defines any way that they want to. It's very subjective. Very subjective. And it's oversimplified. I'm not here to talk about that. That's a philosophical discussion for another day. I'm down to publicly discuss this. I know I was left out of the conversation with this. It was a one-sided conversation, it sounded like. I'm going to debate this. You know, I think Project Say Something should be publicly countered. They're pretty easy to counter, to tell the truth. And I'd be willing to do that. Other people as well. And I just wanted to end with this, like, for all those out there that have a problem with white people, and yes, including other white people that have a problem with white people, that white people are not your villains. We're also not your saviors either. We're just people. That's all I got.
You're right. Anyone else in this section?
And the people in the night.
This time we'll have Councilman's report. topic, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you. As far as the statute goes, I know you probably don't need to be reminded of this. That is not on our property. I wish you would take your words to the county commission. And I mean, as I said, we would have to, I mean, we don't get the final say on that, but I would certainly welcome a conversation with the county commission to relocate the statue.
Do you think we can have a meeting then? Can we
And
talk about that?
let me finish. Everybody's had their time to talk, and this is our time to talk. That's why we do it this way. It keeps everything orderly and not going back and forth. So with that part, I've made it very clear. I would support the statue being moved. And I think what's being lost here, as far as the marker goes, you know, by accusing us of being racist and that type of thing, is that we just didn't want that marker. It's the location of the marker. There's already been one mistake made 120 years ago by putting a statue in front of a courthouse where you're supposed to get justice. So we're saying that the marker going there, two wrongs don't make a right. Let's don't make another mistake. Let's put everything where it should go. And on a city street, we're just saying we disagree with where that marker goes. We've got a street full of historical markers that say so-and-so, you know, camped here and did this here and did that there. This was not a historical marker, what was presented to us. We got involved in this conversation probably 3 years ago, and Ms. Eubanks actually put together a very well-written, a very good script for a marker, and we all agreed on it. So did Project Say Something. They agreed. We left the room thinking this is going to be it. And by the end of the week, it had been marked through and redlined and totally changed till we just like, okay, well, we can't do this. And we came back again, as Ms. Simmons said, and I asked for some changes in that, and we did, and it is still, as you know, the city historian got involved in it, and it just did not make sense to put it on a city street. So without just keeping on and going on and on with this, again, I made it very clear that I would like to see the statue put down in the cemetery. There's already a space for it down there. This particular marker, there could even be a different marker, could go right alongside of it. And hopefully we could move on from this. But again, that's on county property, and I urge you to take this to the county commission and start the conversation with them, because we can't do anything about that statue. We just can't do anything about it. And I'll move on from that. And I appreciate all the comments and all. And until you sit here and have to make these tough decisions, you just don't know what it feels like to have to do it. So I hope you respect them and know that they're not taken lightly. Hey, we missed First Fridays on Friday night. I think that got called off a little bit too premature. I think 24, and they should have given that an extra few hours there to see what the weather was going to do. But I hate we missed that. But there'll be plenty more of those to go. And River Heritage Trail, absolutely beautiful. Appreciate everybody turning out for that. It was a great turnout, and I know that that thing's going to be used many times in the days to come. Got the Alabama High School state tournaments going on at our Sportsplex, and I'm not even going to go through all this. I got sent I think over $61,000 has been made out there just in a couple of days. With the in ticket sales and everything. I mean, it's just been a great event, and it's just wonderful to have that here in our city, because those people that come in use our hotels and they eat at our restaurants, and it's just great to see that tournament here. It's a really good thing for our city. I appreciate you all coming out tonight and speaking. I feel your pain, your upset with everything. I feel that, and I appreciate you being here, letting us know how you feel. Thank you.
I too want to say thank you to everyone for coming out and voicing your opinions and your concerns. I've already spoke my thoughts in regards to that. My last comment is I pray that one day we will become a unified city, a diverse city, and let everyone be created equal.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I do want to take issue with the comment about racism as well, and anybody who is adherent to that definition, which is discrimination or antagonism against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. I am a white woman. I am keenly aware of my privilege, but also as a woman, I am keenly aware of my marginalization. And so I take issue with that because I believe that, as I said in my comments earlier, that we can and we should do better. And I am more than willing to work with any group who believes that we need to have a say and to right a wrong from history from years ago. But I also think it's really important that we do that in such a way that we make sure other generations don't repeat that same problem. Taking a page, quite frankly, I believe Hitler was referred to here this evening. May he not rest in peace. But the reality is the Germans have done it right. They haven't forgotten. They've remembered in a way so that if that can't ever be repeated again, it is stopped before it can. That is where we as Americans are not doing our job. And I think we can and should do better. And we can contextualize that history and make it at least an opportunity for people to learn and understand. I am not asking anybody to agree with it. I am asking them to learn and understand. Your choice with what you do with it from there. So I just wanted to be very clear about that. And I do appreciate all of the hard work that has gone into this. I sincerely appreciate that. I also have to let the residents of District 4 know that heavy equipment is on site at Florence Mall, and the Sears end of Florence Mall and the JCPenney end of Florence Mall are being torn down. That will be returned to green space, which I'm sure the owners, which are private owners for the city of Florence, will return to green space to lease to other out parcels. But I think it's important that people know that they have acted in this way, that they are doing this. But that will take away a lot of the safety concerns that we had expressed to them for a great number of months about the lights being out in those areas, and that has been deeply problematic. So I'm glad those areas are coming down. More work needs to be done to rehabilitate that entire section, but I appreciate them doing that. And then finally, Melissa, all the folks in the city, Mayor, the work that your staff did to make the River Heritage Trail opening, what it was, the music that was there, it was really lovely. What a showpiece for the city of Florence. And what a gathering place. I cannot wait to go use it. I had to leave, obviously, that day because of the weather, but I cannot wait to be a participant and interact with that lovely part of our community. So thank you for spearheading that, and I'm delighted to have been a part of a council to see it to fruition. So thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming. I'll go ahead and finish. And I want to thank Melissa. I remember 20 years ago, I had the privilege of hiring Melissa, and she stayed with the project, and we went here and went there, but she stayed with it, and we worked together at y'all. I'm really proud of it. I'm sorry I had to be the graduation. Thank you for what you've done for us. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. That's late.
Yeah. I just want to reemphasize what Councilman Barber said about the city and the statute. We have nothing at all to do with this statute. It's on county property. County said to stay in. We have no authority over that. So, if we have a problem with that, we need to talk with the county commission on removal of the statute and put it in the cemetery at Soldier Rest area. But anyway, enough said about that. The River Heritage Trail is now open, as mentioned, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. I hope you can go in there and walk the trail. It's like a 1.2 mile trail along the canal. It's a beautiful area. We all enjoy that. And I do want to mention with Mayor Betterton that Hillis family here tonight. Remember Preston Hillis, who was very instrumental in the Memorial Grove. When you go past and see that big flag, that was his legacy, I guess. He took care of that flag, and that was not an easy thing to do. But he was very proud of that, and we owe Mr. Hillis a lot in the Memorial Grove.
But you, Stewart, some of the business, please stand and flag will dismiss.